All I wanted to do was to kill my father, torture him horribly. Poke out an eye, cut off a finger, pull out some toenails, slice open his abdomen. Simple, straightforward stuff like that. God knows he had it coming. He was a damn prick every minute of his crappy existence, and it was about time he owed up to it. It was about time he paid. He was a rich prick too. Guy fell backwards into a fortune after my sister was born. Some estranged uncle no one had ever heard of went belly up and left everything to him. He never told us how much he inherited, but it had to be millions. Kept every penny to himself after my mom died. Well, he did send my sister to college, I guess. I'll give him that. Keep the toenails. For now. I wasn't killing him for the money, though. I knew I would never see a cent of that fortune. I just wanted him gone, wiped from the face of the planet. Forgotten. I'd spend my entire youth trying to be good enough for him, trying to make him proud, but all he did was belittle my every attempt. At some point, I got sick of it and took off. Stayed in touch with my sister, though. She said he'd have me disinherited, removed my name from every official document. Like I cared. Life didn't turn out like I imagined, and I strongly believe I can blame everything on my father. It started with him, and I wanted it to end with him. I'm getting agitated just thinking about it. Even when my sister was sick, he acted like I was the problem. When she got better, it was because of him, not the doctors, not mom, not me, not the family. No, it was all him. Some sort of messed up, perverted messiah complex. I didn't plan it, I just got really drunk one night, and I guess decades of pent-up anger and frustration needed a release. Years of buried guilt and self-doubt bubbling to the surface. So I grabbed whatever I could find. Knives, pincers, crowbar, gasoline, tape, plastic tarp, got in my car, and headed for his ugly-ass mansion 4 towns over. It was a 3-hour drive, but I had plenty of burning hatred to fuel the trip. You know how these things go. You start imagining every scenario in your mind, planning every possibility, every angle, how you're going to act in a given situation, how to handle whatever comes your way, which toenail to pull out first. But there was one constant I could never get around. My sister. I knew she'd be there. What should I do if she intervened, if she got in the way? I didn't want to hurt her, but I desperately needed him to die, and nothing, no one could convince me otherwise. It was 3 a.m. when I parked about a half mile from my father's house. I couldn't risk waking him, so I decided to walk the final part and come at the property from the forest to make sure I wasn't spotted by some odd nighttime neighbor. I could feel the adrenaline slowly starting to fill my system as I approached the house. I hadn't been there for ages, but I knew he kept a hidden key under the hideous cherub statue by the porch, him being the clumsy prick he was. I tipped the statue carefully, and sure enough, there it was. Stupid moron. I swiftly made my way to the back door, unlocked it, and snuck in. I don't know what it was, but I immediately got the feeling something wasn't right. Sometimes you get these vague premonitions or something a knot in your stomach, but this one made every hair on my body stand on end. It was a deep sense of depravity and disorder, sacrilege and desecration. I'd never felt anything quite like it. Still wanted to murder him, something fierce though, so I pushed everything else aside and crept around the corners stealthily. His bedroom was on the 2nd floor, my sister's on the 3rd, so I was desperately trying to figure out how I should proceed. That's when I noticed the light coming from his study. Maybe he was still awake. A macabre murder in the study? Ageless classic. I edged my way into the study soundlessly, only to succumb to utter disappointment when I found it empty. He'd just forgotten to turn the lights off, I guess. I sighed and turned to the stairs when I suddenly felt a draft. There were no windows in the study, so quite puzzled by this fact, I decided to give it a more thorough search. Once again, I felt a tug of something dark and ungodly. like there was a blasphemous energy pulling me towards the bookcase at the far end of the room. I quietly obeyed and wandered towards the massive mahogany thing. There was something about it though, something incredibly cheesy. I mean, it's like the most cliche thing ever, isn't it? The hidden room behind the bookcase. I stared at the books for a while. It was just so obvious, so stupid. Every one of those books looked pristine, untouched, except for one. I pulled it. I was kind of expecting a whole show, like the whole thing was going to shake violently and slide elegantly along a railroad track or something. But all that was heard was a barely audible click, and it just swung open, revealing a winding staircase leading down. I'm not sure I got time to truly feel the disappointment before the full force of the stench entered my nostrils. It was noticeable in the draft, but now it was overwhelming. A sickly, pungent, rotten smell. What in God's name did my father hide down there? A damn mausoleum of decomposing carcasses? Some kind of murder chamber? Torture cellar? I covered my nose and started descending the winding stairs, guided only by the faint light of my phone. It didn't take long to reach the bottom of the staircase, but every second was spent wishing I was somewhere else. Anywhere else. The smell reached levels of unbearable I didn't know existed, and I was constantly dreading what I'd find down there in the horrid abyss. But nothing, I mean absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for that sight. The moment I realized what I was looking at, I fell to my knees sobbing inconsolably, retching my guts out, banging my head on the concrete floor, tormented down to my very core by the utter violation. The creature was humanoid, a fair bit taller maybe, chained to the floor, heavy shackles on feet and arms. It lay face down, naked on the cold, rough ground. It was thin, lethargic, gruesomely malnourished and abused. Its skin was ashen gray in complexion, enridden by plague-like infections and boils, horrid deep scars and lacerations. A thick, foul, piss-yellow liquid seeped from the wounds, forming stomach-churning pools by the thing's blackened and gangrenous sides. It wheezed and coughed sickly, still somehow alive, still somehow breathing. But what really sent tremors of dread and horror and disgust through my body was the two horrid, misshapen growths on its back, a pair of utterly revolting, underdeveloped wings. It was an angel. A damn angel. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't stomach it. I don't know how long I sat there staring at my own puke, but to be honest, I had no idea what to do. But it did. I could hear it inside my head. I don't think it could talk. I don't think it had a language. Somehow it could just inherently communicate, soul to soul, mind to mind, and the message was crystal clear. Kill me. It showed me everything, all those years in an instant, a single flash in my mind, how my father had captured it, bound it, tortured it for his own gains, wealth, sex, perversions, every vile, despicable, inhuman thing you could imagine. Whips, daggers, needles, fire, cold, all instruments my father wielded to get what he wanted from that poor creature. I didn't need to think about it. I'm no saint, no Mother Teresa, but I knew in that instant what was right, what was merciful. I gripped my knife tightly, stood over the creature, staring into its endless, tormented gaze, grabbed it by the hair and slit its throat from ear to ear. I knew that wasn't enough. I knew I needed to sever the tie, cut off the head, so I sliced and sliced and sliced. "What the hell have you done?" my father suddenly shrieked. I could feel the creature fading, gently slipping into the beyond. I grinned in utter satisfaction. "I've taken away your piggy bank," I laughed. "You're a nobody again now." I bathed in the heavenly glow of my father's fatalistic misery. It was glorious. Beautiful. "No!" He collapsed on the floor, tears streaming from his eyes. "You don't understand. What have you done?" I laughed again. I couldn't keep it in. It was just so perfect. Better than killing him. So much better. The utter torment and suffering he must have felt right then, it tasted so sweet. It tasted like victory. I just didn't expect it to turn sour so quickly. "Dad," my sister's voice called from the darkness. "Dad, I'm not feeling so good." My sister limped into the chamber. She was pale and sweaty, and her face looked worn and tired. She looked so thin, so malnourished, so sick, drained, dying. "Michael," her eyes were filled with dread. "What's happening? What's happening to me?" She took a single step in my direction, almost close enough for one final embrace. But all I could do was stare in disbelief as she collapsed before me, falling face down on the floor. That sound, that horrible sound of her head cracking open, I can't describe it. One final inhale. "You killed her," my father sobbed. "You removed her lifeline." One final exhale, and she was gone. Thank you for making it this far. I'd like to encourage you to subscribe if you like my content. If you'd like to follow me and want to be involved in what I'm doing / talk to me, follow me on Twitter or Instagram. If you'd like an offline experience, check out the podcast, The Midnight Podcast. And if you're at all inclined, I've got some merch out there to be purchased if you'd like to support the channel. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next video.